This is a podcast with Chitransh Sahai from GoComet and Chris Erry from Compendium Solutions. Welcome to our show, Leaders with Suspicions. I hope you enjoy.
Well, hello, Chit. Good to meet you. Welcome to our podcast where we deep dive into the journeys of business leaders that are reshaping their industries with thinking and technology. So, first off, where are you connecting to us today from?
Thank you, Chris. I am calling in from Singapore, and yeah, we're kind of having like a global call here.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So, before we dive in, I'd love to understand, how you ended up in the role you're in now and Singapore. It's an international business you're in, registered in New York. So tell me a little bit about how you got the role and what drew you to it.
There's a long answer. You tell me however you want me to stop. Yeah. So basically, two parts of my role. One is an entrepreneur, and second is the co-founder of GoComet. So there are two parts to the role, right? So the first thing, how did I land up in entrepreneurship? So my background is I grew up in a simple middle class family in India. It's a small town called Gwalior near New Delhi, which is the capital. And my parents are doctors, and every most people in my family are doctors now. But I was always drawn towards entrepreneurship since a very very young age. The reason why I was drawn was, I mean, probably you understand this as well, right? It's a beautiful journey, right? I mean, one day this company is an idea in your head, and next day it is, breathing livelihoods into people. It is having customers. It is moving money. It's almost like a living organism in itself, right? And it's a very very powerful idea. So from a very very young age, we had a essay writing competition in my school, and I still remember I talked about some very big Indian businessmen in that and said that I really really aspire to be somebody like that. The reason is because they are able to build something which is like an idea in your head, and that is like very very powerful. It's almost like gives you like a kind of like a godlike thing, if I may. But because you are able to unlock something about human existence, something about your mind if you're on this journey. So that was the reason why wanted to always become an entrepreneur. And it can happen in multiple ways. Maybe you're a big musician, maybe you're a researcher, maybe you're really really creative in a sport, like for example chess. It can happen in multiple ways when this creativity, which is in your head, comes out, manifests itself in real life. For me it was always entrepreneurship. So yeah, that was my initial thought. And why go comet, right? So backstory is that in 2015 I got graduated from IIT Delhi in India, and I started my first company. We started our first company together, my same co-founders. And in that company, whatever could go wrong did go wrong. A lot of issues came in, and it was in real estate tech. After a lot of headache, going through multiple ups and downs in like a very short span of time, we managed to exit that company. And with that exit, I had some money in the bank, so I started a small export import business. And with that I realized that this is a large space. Exim trade is a very very large space. Can we build something in this? Can we build something to make it more valuable for larger enterprises and reduce the entire overall cost of the entire chain? So that was the initial thought.
Okay, so interesting on your LinkedIn profile, you talk about playing guitar, practicing meditation, and delving into philosophy, right? So, um, tell me about that, yeah, about why you do that and what it gives you.
So I'll start with meditation first. So you know everybody goes through ups and downs in life. And when I was younger, i had I was a very competitive guy, right? To the point that it literally got into my head, right? I was good in studies, but I was hyper competitive, right? That I really want to top the class and so on. And that created a lot of insecurity. And when I went to IIT, right, which is a very premier engineering college, like has a very low acceptance rate, like 1 in 1,000 kind of an acceptance rate. there everybody was like me. And suddenly I realized that I'm nobody here, right? What defines me, right? It was studies till I was in my secondary, till my 12th standard, and suddenly everybody is smarter. And these people, like the people that came in from a lot of different backgrounds, were doing multiple things. So I was a bit depressed, and after, and I really prepared for very hard for that exam, and I was quite depressed that okay, what is going on in my life? So I did a small course. It's called Vipassana in India, and that teaches the very first basic meditation that Gautam Buddha taught many centuries back. And it was a very interesting course. It was like a 10-day course. It's free of cost, by the way. You have to apply and you have to stay there for 10 days. Every day, probably like 10 hours of meditation. And after 10 days, you're able to learn the basic technique, focusing on breath, focusing on body sensations and all that. And I did it, luckily, I did it very young. I was 20 at that point of time. And I've been constantly in touch with it. So, what it gives me is very simple two things. One, it gives me equanimity that ups and downs come in life. Being an entrepreneur, they're often right. Every day, something great will happen, something bad will happen, and there are days some really bad stuff happens, right? And you have to make hard choices, like letting go of some people, closing out certain things and so on. So there are a lot of hard choices as well you have to take from a day-to-day basis. So it gives me an equanimity that I look at things the way they are. That is, I think, first. And second, it makes me feel connected to something like my inner self, and realize that ultimately whatever I am, whatever we are doing, I mean, it's important, but ultimately it's a game, right? So play it well, enjoy it in it, and if you do really really well, probably there's a reward. Even if there is not, the journey should itself be rewarding. So that sense I've received. And plus on a personal level as well, right? I've never been angry, right? Since the last, I would say, 3 4 years, there has been no anger, right? I have to
Okay.
act angry because I had to get things done, and but I generally don't get angry. Yeah. Oh, it's
Okay.
coming on the podcast though, but okay, it's okay.
Right. And guitar playing, right? So how good are you? I mean, you put it on LinkedIn, you can't be
Yeah,
terrible.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. So I started playing guitar a couple of years back. The reason was I wanted to play a couple of songs for my wife. And before that, I never had any real music practice ever in my life. No music lessons, but I just picked it up. And the reason is, again, right, similarly, like if you learn a musical instrument, I think it adds some very beautiful dimension in your life, right? You're suddenly positively engaged in your life, and music in itself is like an ocean, right? It's like infinite, right? There's so much to learn. So yeah, initially it was hard, right? Playing guitar, it's a bit hard because it's quite hard on your fingers. But I just initially made it a point that every day I'll just practice 10 minutes. And there's some, after some days, those 10 minutes became pleasurable 10 minutes. I could suddenly play some chords and all that. And then I suddenly started becoming better, mostly learned online, but now I'm taking some more formal classes, learning Western classical music and so on. So yeah,
Well, I
that's
can't let the listeners hang there. Did you play the two songs for your wife?
So, for my wife, there are a couple of Hindi songs. Yeah, so like one is a very, very famous song. Uh, I don't know if you know about it, but yeah. So it's called Kesaria. It's a beautiful song. It's in a movie called Brahmastra or something. Yeah, so that song I played for my wife. Uh, then what else? Then yeah, there's one more very famous song by Ed Sheeran called Perfect, and that's kind of one of the songs that me and my wife we first danced to.
Okay.
So it's very close to our heart. So again, it's an easy song, simple chords. So those songs.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, you delivered. Cool. So, one of the reasons I wanted to explore that is I often think that the ability to take time and reflect leads to better decision making in business. Quite often people are quite operationally driven, always driven by the emails, the messages, the noise. And there's in different countries around the world, people take different views to time. Yeah. So, in the Western Anglo-Saxon, it tends to be every day you react to what came into your inbox. But other countries, they have longer holidays, right? So different cultures and economies take different approaches to thinking and reflection. But I guess somewhere in the time you took, you said you were doing an import-export business, and then you magically decided to create GoComet, right? So there must have been something in the middle, right? So
So the magic was a lot of sweat, blood, tears. That was the magic. It was hardly magical at all. But yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship, honestly, I'm sorry to say that on your podcast. If people come to me, I want to start a company, my first reaction is no, don't do it. Right? It's not about it's I'm not going to say that I'm someone special, or there are much smarter than people than me who are more successful and all that, right? The reason why I say no, because a lot of it is not in your hands, right? There is a good amount of luck that is involved in this, right? And I mean, 50% I would say is your hard work, intellect, aptitude, X factor. But 50% is luck, right? If you believe in God, universe, etc., start believing in it if you want to become a good entrepreneur. That's what I feel. I mean, for us, we started a small export import business. What we were doing, exporting things from China and selling them on Amazon.com in the US. We actually, it was a kind of like a drop shipping business. And in that, we initially, the gross margins were very high. A lot of small products in China had a very, very low cost price. And the selling price in markets like US, Europe is super high. So at a contribution margin one, CM1 level, we had a margin of almost like 50%. But we still lost money on those products because we could not consolidate the right freight. We could not move the freight on time. So that kind of made me interested in the space, that there is some aspect of logistics, right? Everything around you, right? Let's say this phone, like for AirPods, this laptop, everything has an import and export element to it. Like even the bottle that we have has an import and export element to it. And um, suddenly it made me also a little bit more grateful towards the things that we use, that a single thing, let's say even a small pencil that we use or a pen that we use, has hundreds of supply chain running to just produce that single pencil, right? And it's not the most complicated product, right? So that got me super interested about this entire global supply chain. And then we were like, okay, what to do now? So in that process, we started talking to some larger exporters, importers, and we realized that larger import and export companies, so typically your Fortune thousands, Fortune 2000 companies, they control almost 70-80% of the global trade, directly, indirectly. So what are they facing? Since we had some contacts because of that import export business, we realized that a lot of issues are very rudimentary because there is lack of technology. And as product guys, can we build that technology to digitize this part so that eventually their cargo reaches early, the lead times become better, the cash flows become better, and eventually, things are more available. Eventually, things are more cheaper. So that was the initial thought that we had, and we started GoComet with.
But that required you to think about it, yeah? So did you stick? Were you effectively just building things and throwing them at a wall and hoping they worked, or did you think about your plan?
Uh, Both actually.
Okay.
Uh, See, honestly, like I in as a person, I'm a very intuitive person. So certain things, I mean, as you pointed out initially, that I do reflect on things, but I am intuitive and I am impulsive as a person, right? It's just who I am, right? So what happened was, at that point of time, we had a few customers, a couple of them, just two or three of them, very small ones. And in that period, we started pitching to everybody. And I was doing a lot of cold calls, daily getting on the phone and, breaking my head. Okay, can I get to some of these large companies? Because it's hard. enterprise sales in itself is hard, right? To go through multiple sets of people and then get to the right people is pretty hard. So in that process, we touched base with one of the largest pharma companies in India, and they had certain issues that we thought that we could solve, and we immediately started building out the product for just that company. And they were
Okay.
kind enough to give us a chance for 3 months. And on those 3 months, my co-founder Gautam, he literally spent 12 to 14 hours in their office every day to figure out how to build and what to build. After 3 months, the first iteration that we launched, that did not have the intended result. In fact, in some cases, it was counterproductive for them. They were like, "Oh, we spent all this time, and it is not having the intended result." We still kept on. The team was kind enough to give us multiple chances, and then after multiple iterations, we created something which is now 5 to 10% of what GoComet is, right? Uh, so one of the reasons that we have grown where we have grown, it's because I always believe to be a very good student of the market. Yes, you should have your own insight, impulse, etc., intuition, but you should be a very good listener to your customers. Your customers are literally everything in this business, at least in my business. Whatever the customers tell you, they will point you in the right direction, and eventually, using that information, you'll be able to build something which can sell to everybody. Then, so that's how I we operate in GoComet.
Okay, so you basically got there by building the first version of your product for a client, right? And you had to invest the time and money in that, or were they kind enough to give you some income whilst you were building it?
So, yes, we did invest some money, but yes, the first contract itself, it was a commercial contract, was not free of cost. And that has been one of my learning in since starting GoComet. A lot of, again, startups come to me and say, "Hey, the first pilot we'll give free of cost, etc." Never do that. Never sell yourself self short, right? uh, Initially, for the first few customers, you have to first sell your capability, right? At least in a B2B business, that yes, I am capable to understand the problem, and I am capable to build something which might be meaningful for you. If you're able to sell that, there has to be some commercial aspect to it. I'm not saying the first customer will give you hundreds or millions of dollars, right? But a few tens of thousands of dollars you can extract, you should extract, because that also shows a buying commitment from their side. So that's what we did in the first customer.
Okay, so get that now. So tell me a little bit about how you built your team. What's been your experience with attracting and retaining the best people?
So when I started GoComet, I was very young. I was 24, 25. And I made a lot of mistakes in hiring the initial team. And in fact, if you were to really put out a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute best person in hiring, retaining talent, and attracting talent, and 1 being the absolute worst, I'll be probably 4,
Okay.
right? I was that bad. I was really bad. At one point of time, I hired like a 6, 7 people sales team, and I had to fire them in like a year, right? So a lot of time lost, money lost. The reason why I was bad uh, is now I reflect on it, and I understand some reasons. One is because I used to always hire for aptitude and skill. Well, that is important. But in business, what people have that have worked really, really well in GoComet have been people who have the right attitude towards problems, who have the right, who have a stable head on their shoulders, right? Um, People who really want to work with us. Uh, you know, and for them, it's a big opportunity as well, right? I mean, it's both ways, right? I'm investing in somebody. That person is also investing in my company, right? He's investing the most couple of crucial years in his life. So, for us, initially with that mindset, when I hired people, it was really bad. I mean, there were some issues, there were tantrums, non-performances, and a couple of people that I hired, they thought that we were a young startup, so they thought that they are doing us a favor by coming to us. So, it's very hard to negotiate a compensation with somebody like that, because at any point of time they know that if they say, "Hey, I'm going to leave you," you suddenly get sleepless nights. So So yeah, it took me some time to build that instinct, and I'm still building it. I'm not perfect, but still I'm building it.
It must be
So
easier now that you're so successful, yeah, to get the people you want.
not too successful. I'm in the grind, but
Yeah.
yes, I would say on it. I mean, where I and where I want to take GoComet, it's much more successful than what I am at right now.
You're very humble, but on your website you're celebrating 500 plus brands globally.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not too shabby.
Exactly.
Not too shabby. Yeah.
No, to be honest, yeah, I mean, I'm better now. And a lot of learnings have been because of people who have worked in GoComet, right? Some people I see, like I'll tell you one guy, right? He joined us as an intern in like 5 years back. We were a very small company at that point of time, and now he started, from an intern, he's super creative, started leading all the growth initiatives, built out an engine which impacts like almost 30% of new closures now for us, right? Why? Because of his intent that I want to do something really awesome in my job, right? So that intent, if you're able to pick up when you're interviewing people, it's amazing. So so yeah. So over time now I'm getting better at picking up that intent. I'm getting better at understanding who really wants to work with me, and then obviously skill evaluation is a part of it.
Brilliant. So, obviously the macroeconomic situation's interesting right now, with
Yeah.
the tariffs and the
Last
reaction
few
of
days
different
have been
nations.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So, other than that, what are the trends in this industry? Where are you going next with the business? Yeah.
So yeah, now I'll tell you the journey of GoComet till now. If you can really split it out, it's actually split out in three parts. What I call it as a DAS framework. It's actually by a person, Mr. Robert Brown, Dr. Robert Brown. He's made a DAS framework. So first is digitization, second is automation, and third is smartness, right? So of course, as in the beginning I mentioned, right, a lot of large companies still don't have that 0 to 1 journey in our space. They're still using an ERP, and after that, the entire value chain is still super manual. So our job in GoComet is to digitize that value chain, integrate with ERP, and make things better for the exporter or make it better for the importer. Now that's the first layer that we have solved till now, like in terms of digitization. Most of the things that are required in an exim supply chain, we have that in GoComet's product, and we can transform the entire equation. Second part is automation. Yes, we can automate a lot of things on the behalf, so lesser people, lesser manual intervention is required in the entire chain. The third thing that we are going towards is how do we make the entire process smart, right? And that's where I will tell you a use case that we are solving for tariffs. Now, uh, with that in mind, when a large company, let's say Procter and Gamble or a Unilever, they decide an annual plan. They have that these are the export ports, these are the import ports. We want to export from here to here, right? And every trade, every export import, Chris, has a non-zero risk attached to it. That there is a chance that this trade will not happen. Could be anything, right? It's so let's say a simpler trade. Let's say, for example, from Mexico to Argentina, the non-zero risk is very small because it's landlocked neighbors. But in trades like, for example, something from Central Africa to United States, the non-zero risk is higher. That means it's more risky, that there's a chance that the entire vessel gets sabotaged. There could be a shipwreck, there could be massive congestions, etc. So if you really split this risk, right, you can split this risk into two parts. One is an operational risk, that okay, what are the congestion at port, what is the tracking delay, how many vessels are going, what's the speed, what is the predictive ETA, etc., etc. That operational risk we cover. We already have that in GoComet. But the second part is you can consider as a political risk, or some macroeconomic factors like tariffs, etc. They also obviously impact, in a lot of cases they impact more than the operational risk. So what we are now working on is using Gen AI to contextualize this risk, and using our operational risk parameters provide a non-zero risk quantification to these large companies, to the CEOs, CFOs of these large companies. And With that, people can plan their networks better. They know that, okay, this is the risk attached to this trade, and this trade or a certain trade has a lower risk but more expensive. So they can actually take those decisions on the fly. Second aspect is that this risk is a moving equation, right? It's not earlier, like 3, 4, 5 years back, it was like a once a year or 6 months, right? But now this risk is a monthly moving thing, right? What you were doing from China to US last month, you cannot be doing the same thing this month. You cannot be doing the same thing probably next month, right? So there is a lot of variability in this risk on a month to month basis, depending on the political situation, congestions, and a lot of intricate interwoven aspects. So that's the area that we're working on, is to quantify these non-zero risk parameters.
Right. So there's a particularly fascinating thing of what you said there, which is around the use of Gen AI. Yeah. So Gen AI is pretty good at reading unstructured information. Yeah. However you
Yeah.
present it. But
Mhm.
one of the things that, in Companion, in my own personal consulting business, digital mixologist, I run AI ideation meetings with clients, right? Because everyone wants to know, what should I do with AI? One of the challenges we find is that a lot of people in organizations are used to absorbing information in a structured way.
Mhm.
Okay. And risk analysis is quite often quite presented in quite a formulaic manner, risk grids or risk movement charts or so on, emerging and descending risks and so on. How are you approaching that tricky piece of taking the output of the Gen AI and presenting it in a way that people with many years in a particular space and thinking in a structured manner can interpret it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the real tech that is there behind that's a secret sauce behind the product. But to give you a high level idea on that, see, what you need to understand with every news is what, like, let's say, for example, there are 2, 3 sets of news. News one saying that, hey, there is a port strike in Ningbo port in China, and as a result of which there could be potential disruptions. Okay. Second is, there is tariff suddenly of 20% on certain commodities. How many of those commodities get exported out of Ningbo, right? Third could be, there is a massive congestion near Ningbo port because too many vessels have arrived and they don't have enough space to dock them. So all of these things, if you empirically understand, they all have a different impact on the the chances of trade. Something will say, okay, if there's a strike, the trade will be halted for a few days and eventually it will get solved. A tariff, it has multiple multifaceted impacts. So that you empirically understand this, these are the scenarios, these are the impacts of this thing, right? Too many vessels clogged, that also has an impact. Or may not, it's not like saying that everything will be stopping, but it will be moving very, very slow. You know, so if you empirically understand these things, then you need to overlay with that with certain data and then provide a non-zero risk. Now, I'm not saying that my risk is the best in the market, right? But what the hell, there is no other parameterization of risk in the market. There is nothing, right? So as long as if I'm able to provide a directional view that month one or week one is better than week two is better than week three, right? I am I'm doing my job, right? And that's what people want to know.
Well, you've answered my next question, which is like everybody's standards are different. Yeah. Everybody's risk tolerance is different and everybody's frameworks are different. So you basically answered the question, which is don't try. Yeah. It's more about the change than the number.
Certainly.
That's a great answer. Thank you very much for that. Um, so you now got a relatively successful business, right? A SaaS product that seems to be growing more and more features and modules in it. So what does your day look like? How do you manage your business? How do you know you're doing well? What KPIs do you track?
KPI is very simple: growth, for us as a smaller startup, it's growth. I mean, not that small though, but as a medium level startup, I think growth is one still big number. So growth and sustainable growth. So we are growing pretty fast. We are growing almost 2.2x in revenues every year and closing some very large deals across the globe now. And so I think that's the first and foremost metric that I am pegged against, and from my shareholders, my investors, and my team, that what is the growth of the company and growth in terms of revenues. Second level aspects are what is the retention looking like, right? How much is the churn? Overall, what is the net retention rate? How much is the expansion? And these are the second level metrics. The third is like the NPS. Are people happy using the product and so on? Then if you go, so because when I'm thinking about GoComet, uh, my customer is the primary person for me, more than everyone else, right? Then come my employees, and then come founders and shareholders, to be honest with you, right? If you're delivering the right things for the customer with the right team, then only magic happens. So then you go a little drill down and you understand how your team is, right? Are they happy? Are they motivated? Now, obviously, it is not possible to have all the people meet motivated all the time, but can you have most people motivated most time? That is what I try to optimize. So yeah, this is what my and our us as GoComets founders and leadership KPIs look like.
Okay, and you're registered in New Jersey on your website, and obviously got an Indian Singapore mix. I mean, how international is the team and organization?
I would say primarily Indian. There are almost like 90, 85, 90% Indians. Then there are some people from different geographies, because a product tech, key account management, support, all these things are run mostly from India. Then we
Okay,
have a few folks on the ground in the US market, which is US is all remote right now because everybody's traveling all the time. Then Singapore is where I sit. We have a lot of customers in Singapore, Southeast Asia market. There are a few AEs here, and then we also have Bangkok, Thailand as a market as well. So we have a small sales key account management team based in Thailand as well.
yeah. I mean, maritime and shipping is an international trade, and is at the heart of a lot of the logistics, not so much in air freight. So just tell me, as we come to the end now, a little bit about your biggest operational challenges. What's making you worry?
I think honestly not a lot of things,
Okay,
fortunately.
it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the real answer is that I can give you a more fancy answer that this, that. But whatever comes my way, we'll figure out a way to solve it, right? Uh, the biggest worry in a startup is uncertainty. And I'm okay to work in uncertain times. So whatever life, business things are thrown at my way, I think I'll be able to navigate that. I'm pretty strong.
Okay.
So nothing really worries me that much. But if you were to really ask me about from my business standpoint, I mean, these tariffs and all, because they worry my customers, so they do worry me. I need to, come up with better solutions, better, at least be a better uh, hearing and be able to lend a patient ear to my customers, and probably comment on certain things. So these are certain things that we are working on, but I think nothing really worries me per se. I mean, we'll figure it out, right?
Okay, you sound like the right man for the job. So just to close off, before you said if you want to do a startup, don't. Okay, we like always to sort of finish a little bit on, what
Okay.
advice would you give people at a different stage in their journey? That could be later on in life when you're reinventing yourself, or it could be just when you've left education and you're looking to do something. So, you know, think about it from the point of view of if you had your life again, what would you do differently? Yeah. So, what advice would you have to any listeners thinking of doing something entrepreneurial?
So, first, listen to your customers. Like any business that you build, a lot of times people, the very first line of code they write or very first trade they do, whatever they do, right? They start thinking of themselves as the master of the market, right? Never do that. you have to be the student of the market. You have to go through the grind. In my understanding, it means talking to at least 50 relevant customers. Because, initially startup is very cool, right? Beginning you write, maybe some things work out, your motivation is here. But then uh, you are in a chasm, and then you're here, right? Your motivation is here, and then at that point of time most founders quit, right? So to, this will still happen. But if you are aware and you are talking to a lot of your customers before doing anything, it helps to go through this up and down. And there's a chance that, whatever you write or whatever code you write or whatever you do, it will hit the right spot if you've spoken and done a proper research on it. Second, when you do that research, remove confirmational bias. That is the worst thing, right? What people go and they say that, okay, so basically they created a product, and that is a product chasing a problem, right? So people go with a lot of confirmational bias. They will ask their customers or their users or their TG very leading questions. Hey, if this was there, would it help you? Yes, of course it will help me, right? They don't ask the tough questions, that if it were helping you, what would you pay for it? If that was the amount, can you sign something up right now? You have to give me that money. Can you put it on a credit card? Something like that, right? So have those hard questions, right? Don't go into the confirmational bias stage. That, okay, you're asking very leading questions. And third is, go through the grind, especially in the beginning. Don't expect, even if you have a lot of money, either you have raised or you come from money, uh, the first 15, 20 customers in a B2B SaaS or in a consumer internet business could be some equivalent metrics. Let's getting to maybe 100,000 daily active users or something like that. Go through all the processes by yourself, right? In B2B, that means closing the first 20, 25 customers yourself, right? Don't expect to get a team. A lot of founders come to me, hey, saying that, hey guys, we are product guys and we don't know the sales. You're not built for it. You have to go through the grind. You have to talk to the customers. You have to face a lot of rejections. So yeah, these are three aspects for early stage entrepreneurs that I quite recommend.
Great. So we'll finish there. Thank you, Chit. I think that some of those insights, people will have heard them, but it's different when you hear them from someone who's been through it. Okay. And also very fascinating in the global logistics industry, and well done on a product that's obviously doing well and expanding internationally. So thank you for your time, Chit.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Okay, that's a wrap. So what happens now is my editor in Amsterdam will review the podcast, do some mild edits. I'll then send you a link to review it. When you're happy with it, we'll publish it on LinkedIn. I'll tag you, I'll tag your company, and hopefully your marketing people aren't asleep, and can then like it and then promote it as well. So it's your content to do with as you wish. And thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Chris. I hope it was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good, very interesting. I mean, the angle I was trying to tease on a little bit there was about you do have an ability to reflect and think and listen. Yeah. And that's actually a little bit different to a lot of people out there who say, no, we build a product, right? We work out what the answer is, and then we try and find people who want it, So yeah, I'm more in your camp. All right. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.